Hello and welcome to Noninkables. Sorry it took so long for an update, but turns out going to a Disney Lorcana challenge with your team and all your friends from locals is super tiring. I would say it's maybe more tiring than when we went to Texas, just because you do the challenge and then you all want to hang out. And so we were up late every single night. Okay, so we went. I guess I should talk about what I'm actually going to talk about in this podcast. Okay, so we're going to talk first about Las Vegas, obviously, what we did every day, what deck we took, and kind of thoughts, I guess, reflections from it, and then plans. So I guess the usual format, the past, the present, and the future. So I think in the last podcast, I was said that we made a final change to the deck and then we were set and everyone was on the same deck. Turns out that was not true. We made more edits. And so our Team Noninkables, ended up taking a red-blue item deck. So if you're not familiar, an item deck basically kind of like the list that won Bologna in Europe. So mostly items. And so it kind of, even though it's red-blue, it is very different from the traditional red-blue. So I would say the traditional red-blue is usually like Popsicle on one, Tipo on two, you ink another one, or one jump ahead, you get to 3 ink, and then Fishbone Quill, Grammatala, how far I'll go, blah, 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 right? So it ramps very quickly. It plays things like Be Prepared, Maleficent Dragon. Our version, it doesn't ramp very quickly actually, and it is all based on items. So it's based around Maurice's workshop, which lets you, when you play an item, you can pay an extra ink to draw another card. So that is the key of the deck. And then also Queen Diviner. So she was a legendary card from set 4, and she can exert and it basically acts like an aerial, but for items. So you look at the top 4 cards of your deck, and then if there's one that's 3 cost or less, you can play it for free exerted. For a lot of items, it doesn't matter if it's exerted because their effect is when you banish them. So those are the kind of 2, I would say, cornerstones of the deck. And then it also includes like Scuttle, who maybe is more like an aerial, where you play Scuttle and you can look at the top 4 and you can take an item and put it in your hand. And it doesn't play very many actions. Our deck ended up playing 3 actions total, so 2 brawls and a hideaway. And so it's very resistant to Ursula and Bare Necessities because they can do it and then they get nothing because there's no actions or songs for them to take. And basically it's a control deck. Your goal is to kind of survive that early game and then it gets insane. So there have been games where we would have like 2 workshops and 2 quills out, and like literally any item you play, you can draw a card. You could draw 2 cards. If you have 2 workshops, you could quill both of those cards. You can really like filter through your deck. The one thing with this deck is I have been almost milled playing this deck twice against Amber Steel Song when they play Whole New World. And I've also almost done it to myself once with no help from the opponent. Brian did one time mill himself because he forgot that he inked all his Tomatoes like very early on in the game. And so he was like digging for a Tomato that wasn't there and ended up milling himself. And so you end up seeing like your entire deck throughout the game playing this deck. I think this deck is very hard to learn to play. The first time I played it, I hated it. I was like, this is the worst. I don't like it. But once you learn to play it, like it gets more fun. I really liked it because part of it was like, it's so I mean, a lot of it is like you're playing by yourself a little bit, but it's also kind of like your opponent is like, oh, I discard your whole hand. And you're just like, okay, let me play a Popsicle, draw a card. Oh, look, there's a hero, draw a card. And if they kill your hero, you're like, it doesn't matter. I have a workshop out. I'll just play an item and draw a card from that. So yeah, and then I have a lot of fun organizing my items on the side, and like figuring out how to organize them on your playmat is hard. And then also we're playing on like the dysfunctional pass holder playmat, which is like a little bit smaller than a standard playmat, so I have to be extra neat. And so part of like testing, I feel like, was figuring out how to organize the items. And I ended up doing like a row of items that don't exert. So they, like Maurice's workshop and Popsicle, like, and Vitalisphere, they have to get banished for their effect. And then I would have like a row of like commonly exerted items. So things like ice blocks, maybe Ruby Chromacon, and then like Fishbone Quill. And then I'd also tried doing like blue, red, blue. It was like a lot of permutations. So pretty fun deck to play. Very difficult. Is not great against aggro. And it's funny because when we picked this deck, Tyler, who I would say is the best member of our group, said he was going to make us a guide, and then he totally ran out of time, which not his fault. He's got a little baby. And so then I ended up making my own guide, and it was like just based on, I basically just every time he spoke, I took notes, and then I tried to like organize them into by colors. And then the night before I'd say the night before and the morning of the challenge, I was looking through my notes and I was like, I don't have very many notes on green steel. I never figured out how to play against green steel. What do I do? Like the only notes I had for that was like big Sisu kills everything, and they have steel, so don't use Gaston because it dies to let the storm rage on. And those were my only notes. And I was like, oh no. And it was really funny because a lot of times I feel like sometimes I would ask Tyler, be like, hey, how do we play against this? And he'd be like, oh, this is a good matchup for us. And I was like, okay, but it's a good matchup for you, but it's not a good matchup for me. So I need to learn how to do it. But it was very fun to make the guide actually by myself. I feel like it made me learn more and understand more instead of just memorizing. And so, yeah. Okay, so the actual stuff. We got to Las Vegas on Thursday because I had like a remote work thing on Friday. So I was like, I don't want to be traveling during that. And our flight was delayed because there was like a lot of wind, I guess. And they offered $2,500 if somebody, because they overbooked, if somebody would like give up their ticket. And by the time I was like, oh, maybe we should do that because we could just drive. By that time, somebody already snagged it. But yeah, it was like, wow, they just immediately went to $2,500. So much money. Usually they do like lower amounts first, right? So we got there, no problem, checked into our hotel, which was walkable to the location. It ended up being right across the street from Fremont Street, which is like this whole like downtown Las Vegas Fremont Street experience. It's very loud. Our hotel faced the street and it was so loud. I was like, I feel like our room is shaking. But luckily, Brian and I both can sleep with like noise, so it was not a huge deal. I don't know if you guys remember, but before Texas, I could not sleep the night before, like Friday going into Saturday. And so it was super tired Saturday. This time I could not sleep Thursday going into Friday. So maybe the trick is I just need to get there a day early so I can have my night of do not sleep. And then the night before the actual challenge, I actually sleep because it worked well this time. So I didn't really sleep Thursday night. Friday, I had my leadership thing via Zoom. It was so dumb. I wanted to skip out and not do it. And I felt like obligated because the last, I don't know, 5 times they've offered it, I have been unavailable. I've been traveling or busy. And so I was like, no, I have to do it this time. And then we went Friday to get the early check-in for the Christoph promo. And then a bunch of our friends came in. So we all had kind of like a late lunch dinner thing together, which was fun. And then kind of stuck around because Rebecca Quest had put out like, oh, all the creators, we're going to do something together at 6. And then like, never posted a location, and then I kind of went to say hi, and then they didn't seem like they were doing anything, and so then I felt awkward and just left. Turns out they did take a picture all together, but I missed that. So I don't know if it was before or after I said hi to her. And then Saturday was the main event. Oh, and then Friday I was gonna play, I think, in a constructed originally, but because my training leadership thing went long, I was gonna miss it, so I didn't actually play in anything. And then we met up. Oh, Friday we also met up with some friends locally who had asked me to bring them a playset, 2 playsets of Anna's. And I was like, what the heck is this deck? Are you playing green purple, green yellow, green steel? And then I had seen them Friday and they were still undecided. They're like, yeah, I'm either going to play like green steel or red purple, undecided. And then Saturday comes, a lot of the best players all played green steel, including our friends. And I heard from other people, just rumblings at the event, that there was like a super secret meeting at 4 a.m. of all the top players where they all decided they were going to play green steel. I don't know if that happened, but that is just what I heard. And so the main event started. Round 1, my opponent didn't show up, which was weird, but good. So free win, like I can't complain. I was like, oh great, I'll go to the bathroom, I'll go get some coffee, look at cards. And so free win, can't be mad. Round 2, I played a green purple deck. I lost the die roll, but they wanted me to go first. And I think in best of 2 that happens more often because if you win on the second round, like the second game of the round, it's one of the tiebreakers that people use. And so I played against green, purple, and let's see, my notes from there was that they used Clarabelle, got rid of my fishbone quill, they got rid of my ice block. The first game I won, barely. So they had gotten to like 13 lore and I was at 5. They put down a Lyle, so then I went down to 4. And then it was like, I went to 6, they went to 15, I went to 7, they went to 16. It was like one by one, right? And then I went to 13. I think by that time I got either a Sisu, or like I was diming a Sisu or maybe a Tamatoa. I don't really remember. And then there's 17 lore, I was at 18, had lethal on the board, and then they just needed a goat bounce, but only had goat, no bounce. And then the second game, I was on the draw and I got smoked. I only got to 3 lore before they won. And like partway through, I thought I was doing pretty good. Like they had no cards. And I was like, oh, this is when I make my comeback. And then they put down a big Clarabelle and all of a sudden they had cards. So just something for me to remember next time I play green purple is not to have too many cards in my hand. I mean, I think I only had 2, but those 2 were enough for them to kind of like continue their onslaught. And then the person who I played kept playing 2-drop Ursa looking for songs, and I don't have any songs in my deck. And then I remember that person being like, oh, I played your deck until like 15 hours ago. And in my head, I'm thinking like, did you really? Because if you had, you would have known I had no songs and you wouldn't have played a 2-drop Ursula. So I think he still thought I was playing traditional red, blue. Okay, so I won. All right, we drew that round, right? And the next round, round 3, I played one of our locals, Eric. Also, his name is KMNOP, like the alphabet. And I thought it was Knop. So I just called him Knop. And he was playing green, yellow. And he had played Tyler, I think, in the case tournament we had locally like a week or 2 ago. And had basically totally beat Tyler. And so he knew the deck that I was playing. He won the die roll, chose to go second, so I got to go first. And he bricked super hard. So the first game I was on the play, they had no 2-drop, which I think is pretty bad for that deck. And so like I was able to quest to, it was like 3 lore for me versus 5 lore for them. And then I got to 6. And then they did do like successfully get like the Kita under the sea combo. But then I just played a big Sisu and it cleared everything. And then they played a Prince John and a Diablo, kind of like set that up. And then I top decked another big Sisu and just killed it. And then after that, it was kind of over. So then I went to like 12 lore, 15 lore, and then they just scooped and we went to game 2. They bricked again on game 2 and I feel so bad. They had no 1-drop to play, no 2-drop to play. And I think only played something on turn 3. And then Eric told me afterwards that he had 3 under the seas in his hand by turn 4, which is rough. Because that is an 8-cost uninkable card. It's just stuck in your hand, which really sucks. So it was kind of like, oh, yay, I beat them. And I got revenge for Tyler, our team member. And then round 4, I played red, purple. Just, I think the classic No I'm Not deck we drew. The first game, I had no ink and I had no draw power, no fishbone quill, no workshop, just nothing, no hero. And so I only got to 2 lore before they won. Game 2, I was able to Tamatoa and double dime to win. The opponent had no ink. They had to ink 2 castles. And I think all of their draws after that were like mims. They had no goats, no rabbits, so nothing to bounce. So yeah, that one we drew. And then the next round I played blue steel and I lost the die roll once again. So far I have not won a die roll yet. The first game I won. The second game I was on the play. I had no draw. I inked 2 Hirams because I was hoping they would play a whole new world. They did not. And then we went to turns. And then they won with a Tamatoa dime. And then I could do anything about it. So pretty rough. And then in round 6, I played yellow purple. That was one of the rounds I'm like most, not upset, but like I didn't like. First things first, the guy shows up like partly, the time has already started for the round, right? When he shows up, he lays down his mat and he goes, and then I just get a full, it like his breath like bounces off his mat and it's just a full face of halitosis. It was so gross. I was just like, wah. And then he also like is one of, like normally you sit down, you're like, hey, how's it going? My name's blah, blah, like pleasantries. Didn't do that. The guy didn't keep score, which I feel like I should have maybe called a judge for, or at least asked him to keep score. And the first game I was on the draw, I lost. He played a Daisy, turn 1. Turn 2, he played the Cinderella Singer. I thought he was like an aggro songs deck. And so I inked Gaston because Gaston does not survive going against the song deck because he only has 2 strength or 2 willpower. It turns out it was in a hyper aggro deck. And I was like, why is there Cinderella in this deck? But it was to sing Friends. And so I inked the Gaston, I played the Scuttle, so then I couldn't do anything against the stupid Donald Duck bodyguard. And then I realized in hindsight, like, he played Donald Duck, and when he quested, I didn't give him the extra point for Donald Duck. But it's not like he could argue because he wasn't keeping score. Yeah. And then on game 2, I was on the play and I won. He only got to 11 because, control, and also I knew he was playing hyper aggro by that time. Round 7, I matched into Gary, my team member, and we were both just like, what the heck? First of all, we haven't practiced the mirror for an item deck. Second of all, what are the chances you would match with a local, much less a team member? And we decided by that time, like, I think we both had to continue to 2-0 to make it to top 64. So we played best of 1. I lost, not because of like one misplay. I miscounted how much ink I have, which is like a really hard part of this deck, is that by the end you have so many items, you have so much ink, it's very hard to decide what to spend your ink on. So I think the state was that he had out a Tamatoa, or maybe a big Sisu or something. Because when we were playing, I had killed 2 of his Tamatoas and I knew he inked 1. And so there was another one probably pretty far down in his deck. And then I played a Tamatoa and I had maybe like 11 items. So if I just lucky dime my Tamatoa, I would get to like 14 or something. And then I was very concerned with his Tamatoa surviving, because then his Tamatoa would be able to quest, and I was pretty sure he had a lucky diamond hand. And so I was worried that because of that he would win. And so I was looking for answers to answer his Tamatoa. And I did end up answering that Tamatoa with Brawl. I'm not sure, actually. I don't know if I feel like I had the Brawl in hand, because I remember I had Medusa to Tamatoa, and then I still had a Brawl, and I was like, and then I played another Ice Block, so I was like, oh, next time I can just Ice Block. I've had 3 Ice Blocks, I could just Ice Block the Tamatoa and I could get rid of it. And then I like miscounted. I thought I had 2 ink for Lucky Diamond, then I didn't. And I'd already Fishbone Quilled, so I couldn't get any more ink that way. And so because of that, I lost. And it's just like, I was doing so good. But I mean, that just means I've improved so much, because I met Gary at the beginning of this set, of set 4, and I was playing, I think, traditional red blue. He was playing blue steel, and he hadn't played since like set 2, so he didn't know what a lot of the cards did. Or maybe no, I was playing red purple the first time I met him, and he was like, even since then you've improved so much. And I was like, I knew, I just need to not mess up. He's like, well, you'll never make that mistake again. And I was like, very true. That is very, very true. So after that, Gary had 33 points, which was pretty good. He actually was ahead of Tyler. And then I went down to the area of people who are just trying to get to the next threshold of points to get tickets. So I think I just had to draw the next 2 games. And I ended up playing this guy who was playing Amber Steel, and we agreed to just draw, because then we would both be able to get tickets, like the max amount of tickets. But we did play it out. So game 1, I won. They were only able to get to 2 points. I got total control, but then I almost got milled. I literally had 4 cards left in my deck, and luckily they were 1 ink short of playing another Whole New World, or else I would have lost because I got milled. The second game, all I wrote was 1 versus 20 lols, which means I got smoked. And then round 9, I paired with another local, Wally. And so we both were like, ready to draw? Heck yeah. Okay, let's do it. And then he left to go hang out with his fiance. And then I just was done so I could chill and look at what the stores, the different vendors had. So I ended up, I think, with 32 points total for day one, which is better than day two, than at Texas, because Texas, I was in that like 20 to 29 point. And this time I made it to the 30-point threshold. And I feel like reflecting on that day, one, I was very happy that I got like a good night's sleep before, because the night before I didn't sleep. And playing this deck, I was definitely like engaged the whole time. Like had round 9 pairing person wanted to play, I would have played because I enjoyed it. Whereas I feel like in Texas by round 5, I was completely checked out. I was like, I'm so done with this, blah, blah, blah. Even though like my record was mostly the same until that point. The most annoying parts were, one, getting tricked by that hyper aggro after getting nasally assaulted, and then the misplay against Gary. Although I definitely think I've improved, and so hopefully it'll be better in Seattle. Overall, our team performance, number 1 was Tyler. Expected. He is the best one on our team. He did qualify to get the Let It Go. He placed in the end 85th. And his last game, like, both him and his opponent, they had to 2-0 to even have a chance to make it into the top 64. And so most people in all those tables around them had like a gentleman's agreement. Essentially, whoever wins the first game would win, because like the other person, like drawing doesn't do anybody any benefits, but getting the 2-0 might get somebody into top 64. But his opponent made him play it out, which reminds me of one of the set champs from last set, where someone made me do that to get into the top 8. And then next placement was Gary. I feel like I took a little picture of how we did. Let me just find it. Okay, so in the end, Tyler was 85th, Gary was 354, I was 606, and Brian was 1508. So Tyler's record was 513, so 5 wins, 1 loss, 3 draws. He had 44 points. Gary was 315, so 3 wins, 1 loss, and 5 draws, 36 points. And then I was at 216. So 2 wins, 1 draw, and 1 loss and 6 draws. And then Brian was 135. So 1 win, 3 losses, and 5 draws. I think though towards the end, him and a lot of his opponents were doing some weird things because they were out of the points anyways. And so they were just fooling around. And I really think this deck may be not for Brian. I don't think he enjoys playing it. And so I think he should play a different deck for Seattle. So we are currently cooking up a different deck. Oh, and the change. Okay, so I will post a link to the deck list down below. The only difference between Tyler and Gary's deck versus me and Brian's deck is Tyler and Gary went for 4 workshops, and Brian and I went for 4 Gastons. And then Tyler and Gary did Cusco, and Brian and I did Hideaway. And in the end, we all decided that Hideaway was the better card, but I think Tyler and Gary are going to stay on 4 workshops. But then they are trying to like tweak it around so that we have more answers for things like Diablo, because there's not a ton in our deck. Sunday, so new day. Oh, afterwards, we all went out for Hot Pot, and the wait took super long, but it was very cheap. It was like, ended up being like 30 something, maybe less than $40 a person for all you can eat hot pot. And it was a bunch of boys, so they could eat a lot. It was a place called Nabe, which one of the locals had recommended to us. So Sunday, Gary and I signed up for the 8 a.m. challenge. Tyler signed up for the 9 a.m. challenge. It was like called Constructed Challenge. So it's like 8 rounds, no top cut. And if you make it top 32, you can get cards, basically. Brian did not play because he was like, he didn't really like playing that deck anyways, and we didn't bring any extra decks. Me, Gary, and Tyler were all murdered by Green Steel that day. So I played Green Steel round 1, and the person I played was super stoic. I think he was still mad, maybe from not making top 64 the day before. But I sat down, well, first of all, he was like sitting at the seat for like 5 minutes before the round even started. I sat down and I was like, hey, how's it going? My name is Q, blah, blah, blah. No response. And then like he had his ink towards the top instead of at the bottom, which whatever. And then like every single turn, he was doing like a lot of counting, a lot of tapping, a lot of calculating. And it was like very intimidating, slash I was just like, what is wrong with you? I'm just like, this is a Disney game. And also like, we're not in top 64, so we're the losers. Why are you being so intense? Yeah, it was weird. And then like during one of the games, and then he like didn't talk at all. So then he was like, draw a card. And I was like, wait, what? And he was like, I'm drawing a card because of Diablo and you're drawing. I was like, oh, okay, okay. No worries, whatever. And then during the second game, like I think he was at like 17 lore and I was at like 3. So there was no way I was going to win. And he had all this stuff on board with a hidden cove. And I was like, okay, cool. And then he was like, I don't even remember the exact, he was like, I'm gonna oracle your card. I was like, okay, sure. I don't know what that means. But he called the judge and then no like judge appeared immediately. And so he yelled judge like 3 more times super loud. And I was just like, this is so embarrassing. Okay. And yeah. And then a judge finally came and he basically just wanted to see if Gaston had rush, which, okay, first of all, I played it the last game, so he could have seen it there. 2, he could have just asked me, does Gaston have rush? And I could have told him. 3, even if Gaston had rush, it would do nothing. He would still win. I don't know why that was a thing, but okay. I was like, okay, whatever. But I mean, it probably paid out because he did make it to, he did really well in that challenge. I don't know if it was because he freaked out all his opponents, but whatever. So yeah, totally got rocked by Green Steel. I think the first game he had like 2 Diablos out, and I was like, okay, I can't do anything. I don't have any cards, whatever. Round 2, I played against Green Blue. So kind of a weird deck. I was like, what is this deck? It had Clarabelles and Mufasas and Mother Gothels, but it was very interesting to play against. And it did make me kind of like, because I was like, I don't know what the lines are against this deck because I don't know what your deck does. So it was very reactive. Round 3 again, so I drew against that green blue. Round 3, I played against red purple and I drew against them. I think this was maybe a newer player or he's never played against anybody who's played an item deck. And so he was kind of excited that I was going to like OTK him or one turn kill him. I actually didn't. I had to quest. I think I only had like 14 items, so I had to actually quest a little bit before I could get to my Tamatoa and stuff, and also because I didn't want him to kill my Tamatoa. So I had to kind of like play Sisu Dragon and quest a little bit before I could do it in one turn. And then after a loss and 2 draws, I was like, you know what? I'm probably not going to make top 32. I'm just going to drop right now and go get lunch. So then Brian and I went to Shake Shack and it was delicious. They had a truffle burger. It was so good. I also got the strawberry peach lemonade, which was delicious. And then my next event that I had signed up for was a 1 p.m. constructed. However, around like 12:40ish, I got distracted trading cards and then I was doing a very big trade. And so I was like, okay, I'm not going to be able to finish this trade and also play. So I ended up dropping it. I didn't drop it in time to get my money back. So I did lose out on like what, $30, but I'm so excited about the trade. I'm actually going to show you all the cards I got. Okay, so the cards that I saw that made me want to do the trade at first was they had an enchanted playset of Tinkerbells. So enchanted Tinkerbells, 4 of them. So I was like, I want the enchanted Tinkerbells. I also want this Jafar because we don't have that card yet. And then they were like, okay, what do you want to trade for it? It's like $1,000. And I was like, okay, here are my binders. And I just started pulling out every card I had that was worth money. So of course, all of my enchanteds that I still had. So I had like, I think like a Stitch Surfer, I had a Belle, I had a Morph, and then all of my legendary cards, foil and unfoil, my Sad Beasts, everything. So I was just pulling out cards that I thought were worth like some money. And then as they were doing the math, they were like, oh, it's actually like what you've given us is more than like the price of the cards that you wanted. Do you want to take a look and see if there's any more that you want? So then I picked out a bunch more. And so, okay, so I should back up. So the first day on Friday, I forgot what I traded, but I got a Hades because I didn't have that card. And then I also got a Ursula Deceiver of All, because that's also a card that we're missing. Oh my gosh, go and focus. So I got those the first day. And then that morning, Sunday morning before my big trade, I had traded some stuff for this Peter Pan because we didn't have that, and also this Aladdin Heroic Outlaw, another one that we're missing. And so then my big trade, so I got the Enchanted Tinkerbell playset, which is already in Brian's deck, so I don't have it. I got the Jafar that we were missing, and then they also were like, oh, do you want this Ursula D23 card? And I was like, yeah, it's there. And then they also had the D23 promo Mickey Mouse. I got that. And then there were some cards that were like cheap, so I added them to the mix. So it was like the Revive from this set and the Radigan's Party from this set. So it was like, oh, let's just add those in. And then I saw Jasmine, which we were missing, so I added that in. And so in the end, I think I traded like $1,600 worth of cards. So all those, I feel like our enchanted luck has been pretty good. So we've been able to get like a lot of cards, and because we have full playsets of everything, I can trade a lot of like bells and like a lot of legendary cards. There were some legendary cards that were like, we don't want these, like Snow White, the yellow one, and Gone too, because that card sucks. So that took me like an hour of trading. The vendors I did it with was Top Deck Keep. They're based out of Riverside, and their trade-in value, I think, is like you get like 75% of TCG Player or something. And their prices were like pretty okay, like comparable to TCG Player, like about the same. We did want like Enchanted Mauis, and in the morning of Sunday, I saw 2 Enchanted Mauis. One was $300, and the other one was like $285, and I was like, absolutely not. I'm not paying that much money for an Enchanted Maui. I think there was one for $150, but it had a big old crease in the middle because Enchanted Mauis on TCG Player were like low 200s at that point. So then they said I could like keep store credit basically for the little bit over that I had. And so then I went and played in the 4 o'clock first chapter sealed. There were people who pulled Enchanted Elsas, not me. And then that one, the first 2 games I won. And then the last game I lost because my opponent had 2 friends on the other side and also had like, you have forgotten me, and so discarded my hand. I was like, what am I supposed to do? They had really good cards. One of my opponents that I played against had Giant Tinkerbell, and for some reason, like, I had a brain fart, and they also, I think, had a brain fart, and they told me that when Giant Tinkerbell plays, everybody gets 2 damage, and I was like, I don't think so. But I was tired by then, so I was like, whatever. It didn't matter. I still won because I was able to pull off an Anna Elsa combo. So I had an Elsa in play that could exert characters as her ability. So I exerted their Tinkerbell, and then I played an Anna where if you have like an Elsa in play, when you play her, an exerted character can't ready at the next turn. So I pulled off that combo, froze their Tinc, and then so was able to survive and quest and survive. And then afterwards I went to go and like redeem my extra amount, and I ended up getting a Alice because we were still missing that, and a what's the other card? Oh, here it is, a genie. It's also still missing that. Oh, and then meanwhile during the day I had Brian trade one of our friends for his Oswald. So if we end up playing items next set, there's so many item things from his D23 set. So yeah, so many trades. So many trades. I feel like I got such a good haul. And then I even added in some cards that I'd pulled during my sealed, so like Be Prepared, stuff like that. And they said that next time, they were like, because I was trading them on Sunday, right? And they were like, where were you on Friday? We could have, like, these cards would have been great to sell because I had a lot of Be Prepared and I had a lot of Maui's to trade. And they said next time that I should just go on Friday and then like basically give them all the stuff I want to trade. And then I can make a list of what I'm looking for. And if they get it, they would hold it. So they say, although I did give them a list and the stuff that I listed was definitely in the case at the end of the day. So I don't think they held it. But maybe if I did on Friday, it would be like more well known with all the people. And so it would actually get held. So super good trades. And then Sunday after everything was over, we went and got hot pot again at a different place. This time we went to a new place. I started with an M. It's like a new grand opening. So it's pretty cheap for like all Wagyu stuff. And it was delicious. The service was super good. Our waiter was super cool. He held all our backpacks at the front so it wouldn't like crowd our seat, which was awesome. And overall, just like, it was so much fun. It was so much fun hanging out with friends. There were so many locals there. I did make the joke that like out of the 9 rounds on the first day, I played 3 locals. I was like, why am I even here? I could just play locals at home. So looking towards Seattle, I think Tyler and Gary are doing some more testing. They're going to tweak this item deck. Brian is definitely not going to play the item deck. I think he might play like green steel or purple steel. So I'm trying to help him test some of that stuff. I am undecided. If Brian's deck ends up being really good, I might play that just because it's so much easier. Because although I think this time, like I was very engaged all of day one, unlike at Fort Worth, I don't know if I could have played it again day two if I did make top 64. Because when I was playing in the challenge constructed on day two, I was like so out of it. Like I knew I could feel like I could tell that my brain was not working as well. So if I made top 64, I feel like that would be bad for your brain not to work well in the top 64. Yeah. So that is that. It's over. So much fun. I'm definitely looking forward to Seattle. I think less of our locals are going to Seattle. And oh, one of our friends. So one of our friends, I feel so bad for. So it's a couple. The girl of the couple has already qualified for nationals. She qualified in Toronto, made like top 16, green, yellow. And then the guy, I think he's played in 3 challenges now where he has enough points to get the let it go, but not enough like based on the tiebreakers to make it into top 64. So this time he was 67, and I feel like this is the 3rd time that's happened to him where he's been like right on that bubble. So hopefully he makes it in Toronto because he's very good. And also I'm like, teach me your ways, make me better. So lots more studying and testing and things to do. And set champs is soon. It's so soon. It's like in like 2 weekends. I don't know what I'm gonna play at set champs. I mean, I should practice the item deck if I'm gonna play the item deck, but also I kind of want to play something else. Also, I feel like everybody in our locals knows that we play the item deck. And so they're going to be like, oh, I just do this against the item deck. Just go aggro. And I hate that feeling. I hate losing to aggro because I'm just like, you're just putting cards down and turning them sideways. You're not doing anything. You're not thinking. As the control deck, I'm like, I can't control you. And you're just running away from me. Get back here. So I think I might play something different for set champs. And maybe for Seattle. I don't know. I'm undecided. So we shall see. And then funnily enough, while we were at the DLC, I had bought like some first chapter boxes online. And so they were just sitting in our mailbox getting hot because it's very hot. And I opened them when we got back. And my luck continues. Out of 4 boxes, I got 2 enchanteds. I got a Belle and an Aurora. Super hard word for me to say. Aurora. And so my trade binder is now ready again for Seattle. I'm gonna go trade for more stuff. I do feel like I should play some steel deck, or at least Brian should play a steel deck so that we can use those enchanted tinks I traded for. So yeah, that is it. Sorry for the late posting of this. I mean, really, I recorded Wednesday, gonna post it Wednesday. Next week, hopefully we'll be back on a more normal schedule of Monday, at latest Tuesday, posting the podcast. And I do have plans to make like a deck building video this week. So keep an eye out for that. And that's it. All right. Bye. Oh, I almost forgot our catchphrase. As always, keep shuffling. Don't end up with a whole handful of non-inkables like me. It didn't happen to me at the challenge, I think, except for one time. So pretty good. Maybe I should just run a deck with no non-inkables. I don't think that's possible. But anyways, all right. Bye.